taking a look here at Trey in the upper right. So when I analyze the swing, I look at three primary areas: back leg, back arm, front side. Okay, I generally start with the back leg, kind of work from the ground up. Back leg should control the feet, should control the stride. So in other words, just simply, if you look at Adrian here in the upper left, get the back leg ready. Okay, that should have a sense or a feeling of pulling the front foot up, and then when the back leg unloads, it puts the front foot down. Okay, so it really should be just a simple 1-2, a simple load, and lateral sideways unload of the back leg, and that's really all the back leg has to do. Okay, but as we've been seeing here, most hitters, especially over the last 15 years, are being taught not to include a driving component to that back leg. Okay, so as we look at Trey here, let's look at the back leg and really kind of how how he coordinates his feet. Okay, Trey kind of goes out with a toe up kind of deal. So I would consider him a, really a no stride guy. Kind of the classic. This is more of a false stride. So the toe gets here. Okay, but the entire unloading of his back leg happens with that toe in contact with the ground. So I consider that a no stride hitter. Okay, because that's more or less a false stride there. Nothing really happens, and then he goes. Okay, so he's loaded here. And then we have, the lateral or sideways unload. Okay, and he does press. There is a pressing action there on his unload, but I do think there's still far more turn than there needs to be. As we look at the back leg and how it acts, you can see his shoelaces are right out on the pitcher, and he's a little bit more concerned with turning the leg. As the heel kind of comes up really prematurely, and he kind of turns off of it and lifts it more than driving off of it. As you look at Adrian's inside part of his back heel here, still kind of anchored here to the ground and really pressing. There's more of a sideways driving action to it. Okay, so I would recommend a Trey, even though there is a good driving component to the back leg. He's forcing it to turn over. He's forcing spin. Just work on pressing laterally or sideways, and then allow the foot to turn over. Don't force it to turn over. Okay, and then I think he kind of lifts it a little too high too, maybe in an attempt to feel like he's getting off of the backside. So that's more height or more coming off the back foot than we really need. Okay, and again, what's important isn't that the foot comes off the ground. What's important is, did we drive with it? Okay, and we do see here Adrian, the foot comes off the ground and there's some forward movement to it here, and Trey has that as well, but there's not quite the driving component there. There's too much emphasis on turning and not enough on pressing laterally or pressing sideways. All right, let's take a look at the front side. I've never been a huge fan of the toe here, especially as much as you turn it in there, because the more you turn it in, there's always a counterbalance to that. The more you turn it in, the more you're going to want to kind of turn it out, and you don't really want to feel like we're spinning our feet or spinning our femurs as we hit. Okay, so as we look at the front side there, I would generally reduce the amount of inward turning that we're doing here, to load the front side. Some guys like that feeling, and it can work, it can be okay. However, the more you turn in, the more you're going to kind of turn out in the end. Okay, so that's more activity out of the front foot and more opening of the front femur than I would generally suggest. Okay, when we land, we're letting this front knee get too much on top of the front foot. You see Adrian here, the knee positioned behind the foot. That's going to get us a little bit more of a better leverage point. Okay, you can really see it here, how the knee is on top of the foot. And that's kind of what I mean. If the foot stays more square, the knee is more apt to stay behind the foot. Okay, so when you set up in your stance, if you just set that front side up how you want it to land, let the back side pull it up and put it down, then you're in good shape there. Okay. Kind of moving our way up here, let's take a look at the lead arm. This is one thing I talked with Trey about, is how he's fighting extension in the lead arm, and he's kind of forcing that lead arm to stay bent. Okay, and that's going to cause that lead arm to prematurely kind of pull the hands forward a little bit. Okay, not create quite the amount of stretch that we get. Now with Trey, even though it's kind of really flexed here, he tends to kind of allow it to kind of extend late, and it doesn't get too far away from him. Okay, so in other words, at contact, his lead arm's in a great position. Okay, so I mean, he's in a great position there, and actually the late extension, and this is kind of different. You know, getting here, the idea that he does allow the lead arm to stretch here at the end does have the effect of kind of keeping his hands back. My recommendation there is, if he's trying to keep this bent, to quit trying to keep it bent and just kind of keep it relaxed. You can kind of see it right here. There's this kind of idea that I'm going to kind of jut my elbow out at the ball right there, and we get this really super bent position, very different than this here. But then he allows it to kind of stretch out towards the end. So it may not be that big of a deal, but just, you know, at this point in your swing, don't try to kind of jut the elbow or keep the front elbow bent there. Okay. You know, at contact, we're in a really nice position here, in that the backside, we're off the backside, but we're tilted behind the front. You know, that's what we want to be, is off the back, behind the front, off the back, behind the front. So we're nice and tilted there. Again, I think he's forcing the foot too high, and the square front side would help us, you know, be a little bit more stable behind that front side. But overall, you know, our position at contact is pretty good. You know, I really don't like how the knee really flops open here on that front. Like I'm saying, you know, that's just a different move at the ball. You know, this is a simpler, you know, straight sideways move at it. Whereas here we're getting a lot of turning and flopping open out of that front side. Okay, head really stays back though, right there. All right, let's take a look lastly at the back arm action. Okay, and I really like how Trey has a really loose barrel. You know, in other words, he's able to create some lag and some whip as he gets started. Okay, see if you can kind of know. You know, he's loose with his hands here. The elbow works up, and the barrel kind of works with it to get to that nice stack position. Okay. You know, generally the way that I teach this is try to keep the elbow really loose, and then ultimately we get the hands to follow. But I really like how Trey has loose hands here, and as that elbow works up, the hands kind of cock with it. Okay, so I like the way, you know, that's kind of an elite level move, the way he's kind of loading that back arm and kind of letting the bat kind of follow it there. So the elbow works up nicely. As the elbow drops in, okay, we're still pretty stacked there. Okay, we're getting some blur there from the camera because of the lighting. But the bat's still pretty stacked right there. Again, I think he's too open at this point. You can see how the back foot is already turned over compared to Adrian. So all this forced turning over here gives us a different look. So I don't like that. But in terms of just the back arm and where he's launching from, and really this is, you know, once the elbow slots, that's kind of, you know, where I say, well, where are the hands and bat, where, you know, where are they launching from? And so he's launching from a good position here. Okay, right there. Okay, and the bat stays pretty steep. And again, barrel still over hands late in the move, and that's what we want. We don't want to get on playing too soon. Okay, we want to delay that. Okay, and he throws through, and the hands turn over very quickly afterwards. So there's real good hand action through there. I mean, that's really, you know, I would consider that, you know, elite level hand action through there. I still think he's far too open there. There's a little bit too much opening. But in terms of what the hands are doing through contact and how that back arm is close to finishing through contact, you know, and he really gets to hit. You want to see this position Adrian's in here. That's the finished position where the lead arm is still extended. The right arm has finished extension and thrown over the top. And you want to get to that position, you know, quickly after contact. So we get contact, and we want to kind of get there, you know, within 3 or 4 frames after contact. Okay, so real nice finishing position there with the back arm. So I like the back arm a whole lot. I think it's and really that's, you know, if there's one thing that's probably the most important part of the swing, it's how the back arm, which includes the hands and bat, the backhand and bat, I guess, how those things move through the swing, and that's working really